In this frozen reality, a boy with a legacy of shame pierces the heart of a god, resulting in the violent rebirth of a dying world. This world does not care about your courage. It cares about your eyes. Thousands of years before the first city was ever dreamt of, a tribe of giants lived in the shadow of the Great White Mountains. They called themselves the Yagahl, and they were the masters of the Manak, beasts so massive they could flatten a forest with a single step. But the Yagahl were not masters of their own minds. They were slaves to the whispers of an old woman who claimed to speak for the earth itself. She told them a lie they were too hungry to question, that a child with blue eyes would come to save them from a nightmare on 4 legs. Imagine living in a place where your very survival depends on a biological accident. When a young girl is found clutching her dead mother in the snow, her blue eyes aren't seen as a sign of beauty. They are seen as a ticking clock. The tribe believes she is the key, but in this reality, a key is just a tool used to lock a door from the outside. The young hunter Della is a boy born into a void. His father, the bearer of the sacred white spear, vanished into the mist years ago. The tribe calls him a coward. They say he abandoned his blood. But the cruel irony is that his father didn't leave to run. He left to find a truth the Yagahl were too terrified to see. In this world, leadership is a game of chance. The white spear is supposed to go to the greatest warrior, the one who can take down the lead Manak. But when the beasts finally return, Della doesn't win the spear through skill. He wins it through a fluke, a frantic, desperate stumble that ends in the beast's death. He becomes a king by accident, inheriting a woman who only loves him because she has no one else, and a spear he hasn't earned. This is the systemic sin. A society that builds its future on the foundations of luck and superstition. But the spirits don't send saviors, they send consequences. Just as the prophecy predicted, the 4-legged demons arrive. They aren't spirits. They aren't ghosts. They are men. Slavers on horseback who have mastered the art of treating humans like cattle. They descend upon the camp like a fever, stealing the blue-eyed girl and the able-bodied hunters, leaving the Yagahl to rot in the cold. This is where the ghost of the father begins to haunt the son. Della must lead a rescue mission across a world that is rapidly outgrowing his primitive understanding. Every step Della takes toward the Almighty is a step away from his own humanity. He isn't just saving a girl, he is trying to erase the shame of his father's cowardice. He is trying to prove that a fluke can become a destiny. He thought he was hunting for survival, but he was actually being hunted by a prophecy that demanded his total destruction. In this world, the only thing more dangerous than a demon is a god who thinks he's an architect. He's about to find out that the stars don't guide you. They just watch you bleed. The rule of this reality is that time is a relentless filter, bleeding truth into legend until the two are indistinguishable. In the high reaches of the Great White Mountains, the tribe known as the Yagahl is reaching its expiration date. They have survived for generations by hunting the Manak, giants of flesh and tusk that represent the very soul of the earth. But the earth is growing cold and silent. The migrations are failing. This is the first symptom of a collapsing world. When the giants stop coming, the small men begin to vanish. The Yagahl aren't just losing their food, they are losing their reason to exist. They cling to the words of an old woman, the shaman they call Old Mother, who pretends to hear the whispers of the fathers. The incident of their slow starvation is masked by rituals and chants, but the bones of their children tell a different story. The irony is that they worship the very time that is systematically erasing them. They need to believe their suffering has a purpose, so they invent stories to fill their empty stomachs. The truth is much colder. They are a primitive relic in a world that is rapidly moving on without them. The rule of the Hungry Valley is that hunger is the only honest god. When the belly is empty, the social contract becomes a suicide pact. Among the starving hunters is a boy named Belle, who carries a debt he didn't sign for. His father was the bearer of the white spear, the highest symbol of authority in this reality. But one day, the father walked into the mist and never returned. The tribe didn't see a man searching for a future. They saw a coward who abandoned his post. In this reality, your identity is a shadow cast by your ancestors. Because the father is a ghost, the son is a stain. Dele lives on the fringes of his own people, watching the horizon for beasts that don't come. This event of his father's departure created a power vacuum filled by bitterness. The value of his isolation is a sharpened sense of survival, but it comes at the cost of his soul. Every day the Manak do not appear is another day. The tribe looks at Dilla and sees the failure of his bloodline. They prefer a villain they can see to a reality they can't control. The rule of the sign is that it's just a label for a catastrophe you didn't see coming. One night, the mountains spit out a survivor, a girl with blue eyes clutching the cold remains of her mother. To the Yagahl, she is a miracle. Old Mother declares her a blessing from the stars, a sign that the end of their world is beginning. This is the systemic sin of this world, turning a traumatized child into a cosmic insurance policy. By naming her a savior, they effectively mark her as a target. They don't see a girl who needs a home. They see a lucky charm that guarantees their own survival. They name her Evelit, the promise of life, but in reality, she is the bait. The event of her discovery sets a clock in motion that no one knows how to stop. The irony is that by obsessing over her blue eyes, the tribe invites the very attention that will eventually lead to their destruction. They think they are being saved, but they are actually just being advertised to a predator they don't yet understand. The rule of the prophecy is that it is a set of invisible chains designed to keep the fearful in line. Old Mother speaks of four-legged demons that will descend upon the valley. She claims that a great warrior will arise to defeat them, and that Evelit will be his prize. In this reality, they are trading a girl's autonomy for a ghost of a chance. The prophecy isn't a gift of hope, it's a tool of control. It dictates who is allowed to love and who is required to die before the players even understand the game. The event of this proclamation freezes the tribe in a state of perpetual waiting. The value of this belief is that it prevents rebellion, but the irony is that it also prevents adaptation. For Dilla, the prophecy is the only way he can ever be more than a coward son. For Evelit, it's a cage built out of expectations. The tribe has outsourced their destiny to a series of riddles, ensuring that no one has to take responsibility for the decisions that lead to their eventual slaughter. The rule of the Heresy is that leaving the collective lie is the ultimate betrayal. Dilla's father didn't just walk away, he rejected the valley's slow death. He entrusted the white spear to his friend Titik, and disappeared to find a way to save his people that didn't involve waiting for a miracle. But the tribe cannot handle the truth of their own insignificance. To them, the father's departure is the ultimate sin. They punish the son for the father's clarity. The event of the father's exit is rewritten as a shameful flight. The irony is that they prefer a familiar lie, that they are the chosen people of the Manak, to the terrifying truth that their world is a grave. By labeling the father a traitor, they protect the fragility of their own superstitions. Dilla is forced to grow up in the shadow of this betrayal, unaware that his father was the only man in the mountains with the courage to face reality. The rule of the coward's blood is that trauma is a heritage passed down through the teeth. The other children, led by the aggressive Karen, use delay as a whetstone for their own insecurities. They remind him every day that his blood is thin and his father is a ghost. In this reality, hate is the glue that holds a collapsing hierarchy together. The event of this systemic bullying is a ritual of social exclusion by Heresy. The coward's son. The other children feel a sense of security and belonging. Dilla's suffering provides a common enemy for a tribe that is falling apart from the inside. The value of his pain is the only thing currently keeping the tribe's fragile ego intact. Even Evelit, the blue-eyed brand, is warned away from him. Their shared isolation should be a bond, but in a world governed by signs and omens, even love is a political act. Dilla is a boy without a floor, standing on the ruins of a reputation he didn't build. The rule of the ritual is that the final hunt is actually a funeral for the past. Years later, the giants return. The Manak migrations have dwindled to a single desperate herd. The men of the Yagahl prepare their flint and their nets. This is the moment the prophecy demanded. The last hunt. They believe they are hunting for meat to sustain their bodies. The event of the hunt is a desperate, bloody struggle against creatures that represent the old world's power. The cruel irony is that they are actually hunting for an ending. Every spear thrown is a frantic attempt to kill the uncertainty of the tomorrow they are so afraid of. They are trying to hold on to a way of life that has already been judged by history. The hunt is loud and violent, but it is the sound of a dying culture screaming at a world that has already stopped listening. The value of the meat will last a month. The cost of the hunt will last forever. The rule of the Manak's mercy is that destiny is usually just a fancy name for a lucky mistake. During the chaos of the hunt, Belle finds himself isolated, standing in the path of the lead beast. He doesn't strike with the precision of a master. He strikes with the panic of the doom. His hand becomes entangled in the net, and as the massive creature lunges, it effectively impales itself on his spear. The event of the kill is a gruesome accident. He didn't conquer the beast. The beast committed suicide on his fear. This is the fundamental lie of his heroism. He is a fraud created by physics and bad luck. The value of this fluke is that it grants him a power he hasn't earned. But to the tribe watching from the ridge, he is the fulfillment of the prophecy. He is the champion. Their entire future is now built on the foundation of a stumble. The rule of the fluke is that a stolen prize is a weight that eventually breaks the neck. Belle stands before the Yagahl, holding the white spear aloft. He is granted Evelate as his betrothed, and the tribe cheers for the man they once called a stain. This is the systemic sin in its purest form. They have traded their truth for a hero they can use. The event of his coronation is a celebration of a lie. Belle has everything he ever wanted, but the cost is his soul. To keep the girl and the respect of the elders, he must maintain the mask of the warrior. The value of his new status is total, but the irony is that he is now a slave to his own deception. He is living in a reality where his only worth is his ability to play a part in a story he doesn't believe in. He has traded his honesty for a high seat in a house that is about to burn to the ground. The rule of the mask is that if you wear it long enough, it becomes your skin. Belle looks at the white spear in the quiet of the night and realizes he is a ghost of a man. He tries to find Tedek, to confess that he is a liar and that the hunt was a fluke. He wants to give the spear back and return to the safety of being a nobody. The event of this attempted confession is thwarted by the tribe's need for his myth. In this reality, there is no going back. The tribe needs a hero more than Belle needs his integrity. Every time he tries to speak the truth, the world around him reinforces the legend. The irony is that the spear, a symbol of truth, is being held by a man who feels like a thief. He is trapped by his own success, realizing that the only thing more dangerous than being a coward son is being a fake savior. The rule of the demon is that a demon is just a man who has figured out how to sit taller than you. The sky turns white with the coming storm, and the riders arrive. They aren't the spirits the shaman warned them about. They are slavers on horseback, men who have mastered the art of treating human beings like raw material. While the Yagahl were wasting centuries praying to Manak spirits and watching the stars, these outsiders were busy mastering the horse, the ironed. The event of the raid is a swift, mechanical erasure of the Yagahl way of life. The Yaghal's primitive superstitions left them completely defenseless. They were waiting for ghosts, so they were blindsided by technology. The horse isn't a demon, it's a force multiplier. The irony is that the Yagahl are not being punished by the gods. They are being harvested by an empire that doesn't even know their names. The rule of possession is the only law the riders recognize. The camp is turned into a slaughterhouse. The blue-eyed brand, Evelate, is targeted immediately. To the warlord, she isn't a prophet or a sign. She is a luxury item. The event of her capture is a brutal display of power. She is dragged away in chains along with the able-bodied hunters who are now nothing more than beasts of burden. Belle watches from the tall grass, clutching the white spear he didn't earn, paralyzed as his world is dismantled in a single afternoon. The branding is complete. She was marked by the shaman, and now she is claimed by the warlord. The irony is that the very eyes that were supposed to save the tribe are what led the predators to their door. Belle's love is no longer a romance. It is a pursuit of lost property. He isn't a rescuer yet. He's just a boy who realized his flint is useless against the iron of the future. The rule of the pursuit is that grief is the only compass that never needs a star. Belle stands amidst the cooling ashes of his life and realizes that staying in the valley is a slower death than following the demons. He begins a journey of pure desperation, joined by the wounded Titik, the bitter Karen, and the young Baku. They aren't an army. They are a collection of leftovers. The event of their departure is a quiet, desperate exit from the only world they've ever known. This is the cruel irony of the rescue mission. They are chasing a technological nightmare with pieces of sharpened stone. They aren't moving toward a victory. They are moving toward a confrontation with their own insignificance. The value of their quest is that it forces them to grow, but the cost is the loss of their innocence. Every step away from the Great White Mountains is a step into a reality that has already forgotten they exist. Belle isn't seeking justice. He is seeking to reclaim the only mirror that ever made him look like a hero. The rule of the threshold is that the world is a predatory machine that gets more complex the further you walk. As the small group descends from the frozen peaks, they enter a humid, suffocating green hell they have no name for. In this reality, isolation was the only thing that kept the Yagahl safe. By leaving their mountain, they have stepped onto the menu of 1,000 different killers. The event of their arrival in the jungle is a sensory assault. This is the value of their ignorance. They don't know enough to be terrified. They find themselves in a lush labyrinth where the air itself feels like a weight. The irony is that they are no longer the apex predators of the tundra. They are soft, slow-moving snacks in a terrain that has spent millions of years perfecting the art of the kill. The mountains were a mother. The jungle is a stomach. The rule of the harvest is that nature does not hunt for sport. It hunts for efficiency. In the tall grass of the lowlands, the group encounters the terror birds, flightless nightmares that move with a mechanical, shivering precision. These creatures represent the raw, unblinking eyes of a world that views humans as nothing more than walking protein. The event in the grass is a slaughter of pure geometry. The birds use the environment to divide and conquer, snatching up the stolen brothers and sisters, while Dila and his companions scramble like panicked insects. The irony is total. The hunters who once prided themselves on bringing down the mighty Manak are now being picked off by overgrown birds. The value of this encounter is the realization that their spears are no longer at the top of the food chain. It is a humiliating reminder that in the grand design of existence, a weapon is only as good as the speed of the creature wielding it. The rule of the pit is that a predator in a trap is just a mirror reflecting your own doom. While separated from the group, Dila falls into a deep, muddy hole, only to find he is sharing the space with a trapped spear-toothed tiger. In this reality, the beast is the king of the world, reduced to a shivering pile of wet fur by a simple hole in the ground. The event of their shared imprisonment is a moment of raw, interspecies desperation. This is the moral paradox. Della realizes that they are both victims of a world that wants to swallow them whole. He makes a frantic, insane bargain with the creature, freeing it from the fallen debris in exchange for his life. The irony is that he is gambling on a mercy that nature shouldn't possess. When he eventually climbs out, he's earned a debt from a ghost. The spear-tooth doesn't eat him, not because of friendship, but because they have both stared into the same void and realized that the earth is the only true enemy. The rule of the revelation is that shame is a fuel that burns cleaner than pride. The group reaches the sedentary village of the Naku, a tribe that has already felt the iron bite of the demons. They are met with hostility until the spear-toothed tiger returns, standing by Della's side like a silent, furry god. The Naku don't see a boy. They see the one who speaks to the spirits. But the real value of the meeting is the truth about the father. The event of this revelation is a crushing blow to Dela's worldview. He learns that his father didn't run away. He lived among the Naku as an honored guest, trying to build a wall against the coming darkness. He was captured while defending others. The father was a pioneer, and the son was a fool who believed the tribe's bitter whispers. Della's shame is transformed into a cold, hard resolve. He isn't just chasing a girl anymore. He is finishing a war his father started. The irony is that the man he hated was the only one who truly loved the tribe enough to leave it. The rule of the coalition is that unity is the last refuge of the broken. Word spreads like a fire through the dry grass. The spirit speaker has arrived. Tribes from all corners, men who move like birds, men who hide in the trees, gather under Dila's banner. In this reality, a leader isn't the strongest man. He's the one who gives the survivors a reason to stop screaming. The event of this massive gathering is a shift from tribal survival to global rebellion. Dila becomes a general of the dispossessed. They are a patchwork army of Stone Age relics, united by a shared hatred of the four-legged demons. The irony is that Dela has no idea where he is going. He is leading thousands of people toward a destination he's only seen in a shaman's fever dream. The value of this union is the strength of numbers, but the cost is the total loss of individual tribal identity. He is a blind man leading the blind, hoping that the sheer weight of their collective agony will be enough to crush an empire. The rule of the North Star is that the sky is a map, drawn in a language the Yagahl never bothered to learn. As they cross the Great Sand, a desert so vast it makes the mountains look like pebbles, the group begins to lose their minds. The environment is a void designed to erase the concept of direction. The event of their navigation is a test of pure willpower. Belle is forced to learn the secret of the stars, the one light that doesn't move. In this world, the heavens are fixed, while the earth is a shifting, treacherous lie. They navigate by the cold, uncaring light of a distant sun, moving toward a horizon that promises only heat and death. This is the value of their journey. They are outgrowing their primitive roots, learning the geometry of the universe just so they can reach the place where they will likely be executed. The irony is that the stars they worship for omens are now being used as simple tools for travel. The rule of the mountain of the gods is that grandeur is just a way to hide a mountain of corpses. They finally see it, the pyramids rising out of the sand like stone teeth. This is civilization. A magnificent, terrifying achievement built entirely on the concept of organized cruelty. The Yagahl look at the structures and see the work of gods. The event of their arrival is a moment of total cultural shock. Belle looks at them and sees the stolen Manaks being worked to death alongside his brothers and sisters. In this reality, the gods are just men who figured out how to use the many to serve the few. The pyramids aren't monuments to the divine, they are tombstones for the millions of hours of human life stolen to build them. The value of the stone is high, but the cost in blood is astronomical. The irony is that the beauty of the empire is a direct result of the ugliness of its soul. The rule of divinity is that, to be a god, you must never allow the dirt to touch your feet. Belle and Titik sneak into the heart of the machine, finding a city of gold and blood ruled by the Almighty. This being sits behind veils, untouchable and absolute. He is the architect of this nightmare, a creature who has convinced the world that he is made of stars rather than flesh. The event of their infiltration reveals the mechanics of the lie. The cruel irony is that the Almighty is actually terrified. He knows the prophecy of the hunter better than the Yagahl do. He is building these stone mountains as a fortress against a destiny he can already feel breathing down his neck. He isn't a god. He is a frightened old man with a very expensive security detail. Divinity is just a theater production, and Belle is the one who is going to pull down the curtain. The value of the god is only as strong as the fear of his subjects. The rule of the rebellion is that a stampede is the only conversation an empire understands. Belle realizes that 1,000 men with stones cannot kill a god, but a dozen Manaks with nothing left to lose can destroy a city. He doesn't start the fight with a speech, he starts it with a stampede. The event of the uprising is a chaotic explosion of biological fury. The very beasts the Almighty used to build his divinity are turned into the engines of his destruction. The Manaks, driven by ancestral rage and the prodding of the slaves, become a wall of meat and bone that flattens the ironclad guards. In this reality, the tools of the master always remember the weight of the whip. But the rebellion is a loud, bloody scream from the bottom of the world that reaches all the way to the top of the pyramid. The value of the empire's order is instantly erased by the chaos of nature's revenge. The rule of mortality is that if you can make it bleed, it was never holy. The Almighty tries to use XVIII as a shield, threatening to end the sign to stop the storm. He believes his own lie, that he is the only one who can grant or take life. Belle feigns a surrender, playing the part of the broken savage until he sees the opening. The event of the assassination is a moment of pure, unadorned physics. He doesn't use a god-killing weapon. He uses the white spear, a piece of flint and wood from a valley the Almighty would consider a gutter. He throws it with the strength of every man who ever died in the sand. When the spear pierces the God King, the blood that spills is red and warm. The irony is that the illusion is shattered by a stick. The god is dead because a hunter treated him like a mammoth. This is the ultimate value of the story. The end of the world isn't brought about by magic, but by the refusal to believe in someone else's divinity. The rule of the life trade is that nature always keeps its books balanced. The warlord, in a final act of spite, fatally wounds XVIII. Belle is left holding a cold body in the ruins of a burning empire. He has won the war but lost the reason he fought it. This is where the shaman, Old Mother, performs the final theft. The event of the soul transfer is a chilling reminder of the world's cruelty. Through a ritual of pure sacrificial geometry, she breathes her last breath into the girl. In this reality, death is a debt that can be transferred but never erased. The irony is that the old world must die so the new one can have a mascot. XVIII wakes up. her blue eyes reflecting a terrain that is now empty of its gods and its guardians. The prophecy is fulfilled, but it feels like a robbery. The Savior is alive, but the cost was the only person who actually knew the way back. The rule of the return is that you can never go back to the world you left, because that world died the moment you walked away. The survivors trek back to the Great White Mountains, but they aren't hunters anymore. They carry seeds given to them by the Naku, the secret of agriculture. The event of their homecoming is a quiet, somber affair. They are about to commit the final sin against their ancestors. They are going to stop moving. They are going to chain themselves to the dirt, trading the freedom of the hunt for the security of the fence. This is the final, soul-crushing irony. By defeating the slavers, they have brought home the very tool that will eventually turn them into a new kind of slave. The value of the seeds is survival, but the cost is the wild spirit of the Yagahl. The age of the Manak is over. The mountains of stone are lost to the sand. All that remains is a whisper in the wind, a legend about a girl with blue eyes and a boy who killed a god, told by people who are too busy planting seeds to remember what it was like to be truly free.